So the first question, let's start with Mr. Amirul Zarif. What are your past experiences that you feel are relevant for you contesting as chairman?
Thank you, Aka. Hi, everyone. Past experiences, you mean in the UKEC itself?
UKEC and any student organization for?
Right. Prior to UKEC, I would like to say that my previous experiences were I was a vice president of the road track club in my college, and that itself also got me involved with events and student organizations, basically. And it's also a brand of student movement. But moving on to UKEC, the past year, being the regional chairman and being involved with all of the UKEC events, be it flagship events or big or small events, and as well as supporting Malaysian societies as a whole in the UK, well, I have to say I acquired quite a number of interesting experiences, in a sense that the troubleshooting needed were prior to event days itself, because we can see that a lot of problems arise, especially the night or the day before the event day itself, and this keeps you on your toes to be ready for any unexpected challenges, I guess. And the friends and the acquaintances, friends and also colleagues that you make along the way, and this, I believe, is an important part in the experience as well.
Thank you. I'd like to extend that question to Mr. Syawal as well.
Thank you, Haka. Right. First of all, thank you MST for hosting us today. Thank you to all of you who came here to watch the debate. So ladies and gentlemen, my past experience, how I can use that experience for the benefits of UKEC. Firstly, I was the president of the debate club back in KYUEM and also in high school. Although I believe it's not so much of the post, but what is more important is the role that I have played throughout the whole year, ladies and gentlemen. Because I believe the role I have played so far mostly involved in engaging with both parts of society. I believe, from my experience, I was a public relations exco in KYUEM. I've channeled all the student views to the teachers and also the management team. So I believe I can be the middleman in voicing out the voice of the students, of Malaysian students here, to the relevant parties, to the governments, to the Malaysian students departments, things like that. I believe the role in becoming the middleman and also to connect the gap between the students and also the management team can be helpful if I were to become the next chairman of UKEC. Now let's move on to my experience in UKEC. Being under UKEC careers, I have been largely involved in organizing career talk, in organizing our first ever CV writing and interview skills workshop. And also, I've been involved in the early stage of preparation for career fair, when it comes to operational, when it comes to logistic, shipments, liaising with companies, emailing them, asking for updates and all sort of that. I believe those communication skills that I have will be able to enhance UKEC in the sense of connecting the voices of the students to the companies, to the government of the day, and also to any other relevant parties. And in fact, not only careers, I have also been involved in connecting with the students throughout my past experience in Amazing Race. In MSLS, I've been involved since the early preparation, in liaising with the speakers, in contacting the speakers, asking for updates, and also to brief them on the scope of discussion. I believe these communication skills that I possess can be beneficial to UKEC in the future. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your answers. I noted something down which I will ask a bit later. So, again, just to keep you with simple questions, can you please share with us the motivations behind you running as chairman? Let's start with Syawal this time.
Ladies and gentlemen, what motivates me to be the next chairman of UKEC? Firstly, being the junior execs, I understand how the system works from the very bottom of the organization. I know exactly how it feels to be a junior exec, and should I to take the lead in the future, I know exactly how to motivate my subordinates. And also, I have observed how my bosses like Hakka and Zihao how they handled the relationship with the companies, with the Supreme Council. I believe I'm able to connect the Supreme Council and UKEC so that we can work hand in hand for the future and the benefits of the Malaysian students. And I believe my candidacy for chairman is based on a conviction that I'm able to fulfill my duty as chairman, and I also will give my best for the benefits of the students here. I believe that UKEC should reach out to Malaysian students because we represent the voices of the students, but at the same time, we need to realize the problem that there are not many people who knows about UKEC. For example, when I went to Manchester, some of the students even thought that UKEC is some sort of government agency. I believe this misperception has to be addressed. I believe in the idea of reaching out to the students. I believe I'm able to do that, and should I to take the lead, I believe we need to reach the students because we represent them. At the same time, how can we declare that we represent them when they do not know about UKEC? I believe firstly, my mission, my motivation is to reach to as many students as possible, to develop the idea of UKEC, to tell them what UKEC is all about. And furthermore, I believe we need to engage with the students so that they can participate actively in student activism, because at the end of the day, the youth is the future of the nation. And I believe in shaping the role of the youth so that Malaysia in the future can benefit from this. Thank you.
Thank you, Syawal. Well, what drives me to run as chairman? Well, first of all, I'd like to share with you a little story that I picked up along the way, one of my experiences. Around about in May, I received a text message from a Malaysian number. I didn't know who it was. Apparently, it was one of the students of the universities that I visited when I was promoting and helping out careers fair. It was a university student from the University of Hertfordshire. Now, University of Hertfordshire, they are not registered in the Supreme Council because they do not have an official Malaysian Society yet. But because it was under my region in East England, so I went there to help them out in terms of promoting UKEC and also the benefits the careers fair and also UKEC as a whole that can offer to them. And it was, I don't have it with me at the moment anymore because it was months and months ago, but what was said was, "Dear Amirul, thank you for coming over to Hatfield, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gotten this job that I am in today." And even with that one text message, I felt that all those sleepless nights, all those tiring journeys, all the train travels and everything, it was all worth it. And I believe that now this is something worth doing. UKEC, bringing benefits to the people, not just registered Malaysian societies or Supreme Council, but you have to reach out. Like my colleague here, Syawal, has said, how can we declare that we are representing the voice of the students when some of the university students, some of the students don't even know what UKEC stands for? And yes, I was there in Manchester as well. UKEC stands for UK Education Centre, apparently. And yeah, what drives me in that? And being chairman, it allows me to explore this potential further, to reach out to students as a whole, Malaysian students, and bring the best out of them and give them what UKEC can offer them the most, benefits, and basically giving them a voice. And yeah, thank you.
Alright, thank you to the both of you. So let's pick up from there, because both of you mentioned events and reaching out and student activism. And a huge part of what we do in UKEC is to try to promote the idea of activism among students, try to encourage students to explore different realms, explore the boundaries of their potentials. And building on from that, what would you say is your definition of student activism? And how do you see UKEC playing a role to promote that activism? Can we have Syawal to answer that first?
Right. Thank you, Hakka, for the question. Ladies and gentlemen, my definition of student activism would be in terms of attracting participations and also commitments from the students for the benefits of the nation as a whole. How do we advance from being the youth and students? how do we progress towards a better future for our nation, for our society. That's my definition for student activism. And I believe UKEC should play this integral role in addressing these crucial needs for the nation. Because firstly, I think, because we represent the students, we need to figure out ways how can we encourage this sort of participation. I think firstly, one way to do it is, of course, to reach to as many students as possible. I believe in the ideas that if UKEC were to really reach out to many numbers of Malaysian students, we need to expand. It is inevitable for us to expand. I believe that by strengthening our influence, our presence in each regions in the UK and also Ireland, I believe this will help to establish some sort of a better and direct link of communication between the Malaysian students and also UKEC. And through that, we believe we can empower the students by allowing them to express their ideas and concerns. Because from my observation, what we have been doing so far, by inviting speakers and also to organize carrot talk and whatnot, I believe that we have done so much in channeling the info down to the students. However, we need to work on the bottom-up communication. How do we really represent the views of the students? How do we need to establish a platform where the students can come together to discuss issues and also present that to the government agencies or any other relevant agencies as our solutions to this problem. I believe in the idea of attracting as many students as possible to do that, so that the benefit can be spread throughout the whole nation. And I also believe that we could utilize what we have so far, like Connectwork. Like Lisa's plan was brilliant, how she wanted to promote the events that the students have been doing in universities so that people will be more encouraged and share amongst their friends. I believe that sort of motivation can be really helpful in encouraging them to participate, and also so that we can be able to represent the views of the students. And that's my definition of student activism. Thank you.
Thank you, Syawal. Now, student activism. Now, that is a very broad term to me. It's not just politics, not just economics, it's not just having speakers coming down, it's not just collecting information and give... Yes, I do agree that we do need to give the students a voice. Yes, we need to collect information where they can sit down and gather and come up with a collective opinion or voice to channel to the relevant parties, the relevant agencies or the government bodies. Yes, but student activism is also a bigger thing. It's also for the society. Now, student activism, like, I'm going to mention like some of our recent projects as well. Like Syawal mentioned just now, Connectwork. Yes, Lisa has done a brilliant job, as well as the rest of the Connectwork team, definitely. In terms of giving another aspect to student activism from the point of UKEC, because from my observations all this time, UKEC has been heavily linked with intellectual discourse, heavily themed on economics, politics, policies maybe, and especially very heavy subjects. And we have about, what, 15,000 Malaysian students over here. And out of that, what, maybe only 10% are actually interested in this brand of activism, this brand of movement. Now, what I think is, we need to expand that. Yes, expansion is inevitable. UKEC is growing by the year, by the day even. And this is the general direction of UKEC. Now, to do that, we should empower these independent projects as well. We should empower the students as well to be able to participate in UKEC, not just coming down and sitting and listen to talks, experts from the field or whatever it is. Projects like UKEC Charisma, headed by Angeline, which is not here today. Look at, we got what, 32 or 33 volunteers, 17 from the one project and 15 from the other project. Now, that is a brand of activism as well. For you to come, you fundraise, you help the society in general, you volunteer. And basically it's a very broad term. And I believe that that is also the general way forward as well. Yeah, thank you.
Alright, so both of you mentioned your ideas of student activism, which overlap and differ in their own respects. And it's quite heartening to see such ideals in you guys. But moving forward with all these ambitions, all these plans and idealism, what are the foreseeable challenges that you see for UKEC and how do you overcome them? Amirul?
Possible challenges, you say?
Yeah.
Well, one thing, growth and expansion itself is a problem in terms of the internal structure, because we are so used to a small knit and tight group, and I believe this is the first time that UKEC's grown this large, with about 15 junior executives, and the expansion with teams from Charisma, Connectwork, and so on. Well, growing and expanding, well, it requires a slight change in management. It's a slight change in restructuring the whole way things are done from the inside. And I believe that is possibly a challenge because we have never grown this big. And from the looks of things, we are expanding even further. And also the outreach of UKEC. Because before this, there were comments and maybe, so to say, criticisms that we were too London-centric. Well, to a certain extent, yes, but under the current committee led by Haka, we tried our best actually to expand our horizons, you can say. We had the Manchester Amazing Race in May, to do something totally different but on a very large scale in the Northwest. And I believe that was one of our very big events that went really well actually with Sohaib and the Manchester Student Society. And we have the empowerment of the regional chair as well. And I believe these are very good in the first steps of expanding the influence of UKEC. Now, the challenges are whether we can sustain that, because growth is very difficult to sustain. And yeah, it all boils down to internal restructuring and internal grip, because you need a strong foundation to actually grow and expand your influence. Yeah, thank you.
Alright. Syawal, do you agree that that is the only challenge, or do you have something else in mind?
I have to agree with Amirul on the problems when it comes to the expansion of UKEC. However, I realized that there are a lot of things to be done, there are a lot of things that needs to be done, and we only have one term, 1 year for the next current committee. So I believe when it comes to address the needs of the students, when it comes to have more independent projects, I believe that we need to be able to prioritize which one can bring the most benefits to the Malaysian students. So the problem, the challenges that I can see is when it comes to choose which direction are we going to bring to the students. For example, I know the challenges are to bring in speakers to regions outside London, for example. However, we can always be creative and come up with our solutions. If we cannot get the speakers there, then why don't we have a student-led activities over there? We can always have a roundtable discussion to talk on issues where the solutions can be presented to the government agencies, to the speakers who are coming into London. We can always do that. We can always initiate a platform for students to sit among themselves and discuss about what needs to be done and to present their views without having to rely too much on the speakers. Because if we keep on relying to the information that the speakers can give, then I believe we can go nowhere. Only with that we can go nowhere. There's no way you can expand, you can outreach the students. So I believe the biggest challenge is to prioritize what needs to be done and also how are we going to do it. I believe that the expansion is inevitable, like what Amirul has said earlier, but I believe also we need to set up some activities that can bring benefits to the student. For example, if you want to have a futsal league match, for example, it can just be a futsal game. But then, how do we drive student activism from these futsal events? The funding, the fees that they have to pay, we can always contribute for the development of the welfare back home in Malaysia. I believe that sort of student activism can be really helpful in encouraging the students to participate and also play their parts in addressing the needs of the nation. And I believe we can do that. Though the challenges are there, definitely there are going to be challenges, but I believe we are prepared to face the challenges. Because at the end of the day, if UKEC were to be relevant to the students, these sort of challenges need to be overcome. Firstly, when it comes to the expansion, the problem with internal management and all that, we need to try and pick how do we go from there. We need to do that or otherwise we always stick to the same problem. We need to do that. And also when it comes to prioritizing which activities to be done, I believe we need to be more reasonable when it comes to choose on what activities to be done and how are those activities are going to be done. Thank you.
Pick up on a point you make about picking and choosing priorities. So I'd like to tempt both of you out of the rhetoric for a bit and tell everyone here today, what do you consider to be the priority? Syawal first.
Thank you, Haka, for the question. Ladies and gentlemen, what priorities that I'm talking about just now? I believe firstly, we need to make sure that the project has an impact to the society, not only to the students, but also what impacts can the students bring to the other society. I believe that sort of things that need to be prioritized first. Secondly, I believe the projects have to be sustainable. It cannot be a one-shot project where we invest money and then just there. I believe the projects need to be sustainable so that it can grow year in, year out. It can grow better. It can bring more benefits. It can add more value to that project. So I believe the projects need to have a sustainable foundation in the first place. So with this in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I believe the priorities that the projects that should be given priorities are the one that firstly can bring benefits to the students, not only to the students, but also can enhance their roles in voicing out their concerns. And secondly, when it comes to the structure of the project itself, it has to be sustainable, it has to bring benefits, and also it must be continuously, can be improved from year in, year out, throughout the whole year. Thank you.
Well, from Syawal's point that priorities in terms of special projects, independent projects, you mean? Well,
Priorities for UKEC.
Sorry?
Priorities for UKEC in general.
Priorities for UKEC in general. Well, my sentiments are the same with Syawal, in a sense that how much benefit it will give to the students, and also how big of a role the participants play in the activities that we are doing. Now that plays a big role as well. And it is also a numbers game, because we're trying to reach out to the most students, the amount of participants to be effectively participating in whatever programs that we are having. And I believe that is something important to take note as well. Because if you have a project, though it is yes, it is beneficial, but if you don't have enough participants, it's not so much of a project, because this is the whole idea of growth and expansion, because we want to reach out to the students, Malaysian students here in the UK. We want more participation from them. We want more opening up, because it's not just, because the UKEC committee, the Executive Council, is not just a standalone body, because we work in tandem with the whole of the Supreme Council, with everybody, and Malaysian students as a whole. And I believe participation from all parties, the most if you can get from, that plays an important role as well. And that is certainly one of my priorities.
Thank you, both of you. So your description of high impact projects seem to be describing the sort of projects that are very community based, such as our UKEC Charisma, which is a volunteering project, and Project Pelita, which is a book donation drive project. And these are indeed high impact projects, so to speak, in terms of its value to society. But there are also certain high impact projects like MSLS, with the scale and the size of it and the sheer reach of it, which is comparable to these sort of community-based projects as well. And the challenge when it comes to projects such as MSLS in comparison to Project Pelita or UKEC Charisma is that UKEC's non-partiality and its non-partisanship is always put on the line. So my question is, how do you view UKEC's non-partiality, and to what lengths would you defend it? Amirul?
Well, UKEC's non-partiality and non-partisanship. I stand strongly in UKEC's current stance, and I believe that the current committee has been doing a great job in trying to maintain balance in terms of partisanship. We have had speakers, not just in MSLS, especially, in London as well. We had speakers coming in from the ruling coalition. We have also had speakers coming in from the opposition as well. And in events like Project Amat Negara, we we tried our best to have a good balance, a good mix of speakers in each of the sessions, in a sense that we'll always have at least one from each party and maybe one independent view. And this can be seen in the Project Aman Negara and also in MSLS. And what Haka said also complemented what I said earlier as well, that projects such as MSLS is a numbers game basically. The amount of participants, the outreach that we get, now that is a very important thing. And well, UKEC has been doing a great job so far to me in terms of non-partisanship.
Yeah, thank you, Haka. My views on UKEC non-partisan and also our political neutrality. Yes, we pledge for political neutrality, we pledge for political impartiality. But then at the end of the day, we can't afford to be politically ignorant. Because at the end of the day, the life of Malaysians revolve heavily around politics. You cannot escape from discussing about this sort of issues because you feel that it might be sensitive and whatnot. We need to face these issues. And I believe so far we have done a good job in providing that sort of platform for discussion. For example, apart from PAN MSLS that he has mentioned earlier, we also had Khairi Jamaluddin coming in to talk to the students. At the same time, we balance it out by bringing in Tan Sri Khalid Ibrahim from Selangor State Government to talk on issues relating to state governance in Selangor. I believe this sort of line has been doing a good job to the students in providing the balanced views so that they can pick and choose what they want to follow, so that they have the opportunity to explore and to engage with this sort of discussion. Because I believe at the end of the day, we cannot be politically ignorant. We have to face the issues, and we need to provide the platform for the students to come together to discuss, so that the process of thesis and also anti-thesis can be mixed together, so that we can come up with solution to move forward with the synthesis. I believe we have to maintain our non-partisan, but at the same time, I also believe that we cannot simply escape by not discussing all these sort of issues. We need to face this issue. We need to embrace the values that it has to bring to us. And in order to do that, I will continue what Haka has been doing so far, and I also will encourage a more debate-style intellectual discussion, so that we can have a more balanced views from both sides, so that the students can learn, so the students can decide between idealism and practicality, which one they want to choose, and which one should be the way for us to move forward. Thank you.
Alright, that concludes the first part where I came up with the questions. Now we'll move on to the second bit where I will just read out questions that were emailed to me. So there are 4 questions just for you who are keeping track. The first question is from Chia Kit Seong from the University of Hertfordshire. As it's vital for any organisation to study its past decisions in order to move forward, what is the most crucial thing that you've learned from your year in UKEC? Can we have Syawal first?
Thank you, Haka, for the question. What I have learned so far from UKEC, I believe the past almost 1 year in UKEC, I believe it was a very humbling learning experience, because we have a very good mix of our committees where we have my seniors back in KY. We work together, we put our past aside, we work together as a fresh new committee. I believe it is a very vital learning curve for me to learn on how to work with these people and on how to embrace my own reasoning when it comes to decision making. So when it comes to what should I learn from the past committee, like what Haka has mentioned earlier during the end of term review, Haka talked about how in order for us to move forward, there are certain things that will be affected, for example, our studies. I believe as much as we want to voice out this concern of Malaysian students, we also have to realize that we have a duty as students. We need to be responsible for our own academic education. So I believe if there is one thing that to be improved, it has to be in terms of efficiency, in terms of making sure everyone in the committee playing their role effectively, so that no one will be burdened with unnecessary pressures and also workloads. So at the end of the day, we need to, the most important lesson is for us to be able to represent the students, we also have to be responsible for ourselves. And I believe that is the most crucial things that needs to be done for the committee next year. Thank you.
Well, for me, from the past decisions and the past experiences in the UKEC, one of the most important things I've learned is from each and every event and activities that we organize and also handle. the bulk of our problems, the bulk of our problems, so to say, comes from a lack of communication and a bit of last-minute planning and that sort of thing. It's basically time management. With all due respect with the current executive committee, I believe that we've done quite a good job so far in handling the events, but of course there's always room for improvement, and this is one of the things I learned greatly in terms of experiences with UKEC, that future planning and also like what Syawal said, an even distribution of workload plays a vital role. As for us to bring an impact outside, we need to make sure we strengthen our own committee, our own organization itself. Because if your own house is already in shambles, you can't exactly do anything for the people outside now, can you? And yes, UKEC has been a humbling experience actually. It's been a very humbling experience, and it teaches you a lot about humility. It's not so much the positions or whatever it is that you hold in UKEC, because we are voted in by the Supreme Council, who are representing the Malaysian students all over the UK. So we are serving you, and we must shake away this connotation that we are somewhat above the people, and we are your servants basically. And it's been a very humbling, and I learned a lot in terms of humility. Yeah.
Alright, the next question is from John Ling from the London School of Economics. In what ways can the UKEC better assist the non-Malaysian society groups like KPUM and MACFIS, which is the Law and Accounting Student Societies, as well as groups that serve a similar purpose, such as the International Council of Malaysian Scholars and Associates, ICMS, who are not part of UKEC? Can we have Amirul for this?
Yep. Thank you, Akal. Well, that's a very interesting question actually. Now, the societies such as KPUM and MACFIS, they're close friends and associates to the UKEC, and I believe that we've taken a very big step this year as well to be having quite a number of events and joint ventures with them. We had the UKEC MACFIS talks, we had the UKEC KPUM law debate in conjunction with the careers fair. Now this has brought in a lot of support and publicity for the KPUM itself. And I believe that we should continue these strategic partnerships. We should continue these alliances with these student bodies. And I believe with the introduction of Connectwork, we can even maybe set up something to further promote these societies as well, because they are playing quite a role for the Malaysian students here as well. It's not just us. And for the ICMS, now, I had an interesting experience around about last week in one of my holiday visits. I met Aiden Chan from the ICMS. Now, he strikes me as a very interesting character, and I've seen his views on ICMS. I see what he wanted to do, and I believe that we can work together with ICMS actually. We share the same goals. There's nothing to say that it's only UKEC and nothing else, because I believe that we should support these other societies as well, which is to raise awareness of student activism and further promote this and encouraging students to participate. And yeah, that's about it.
Alright, so what type of help can we offer to these sort of societies? Firstly, I've been involved in working closely with MACFIS. We came up with the UKEC MACFIS Career Talk, for example, where we invite a senior partner from PwC himself to come to talk to the students. I believe this working experience have put into perspective on what sort of help that we can offer to these societies. For example, for the new societies like MACFIS, we need to give them exposure. We need to expose MACFIS. We need to help to promote them so that they can reach as many number of Malaysian and accounting and also the students who are interested to join their societies. I believe we can assist MACFIS and KPUM in terms of promotion, and I also believe that we can always assist them when it comes to the event execution. We can always offer assistance to bring in speakers. We can always offer assistance on how to make their events better. Well, with regards to ICMS, I believe ICMS also exists for the good reason. At the end of the day, we just want a better future for our nations. Although we might differ in the ways that how do we achieve that goal, I believe we can always work closely with ICMS in advancing those ideas. I welcome any collaboration with ICMS, and if people might think that ICMS is a threat to UKEC, I don't think so. I don't believe that ICMS is a threat to UKEC, because at the end of the day, what we want from this is a better future for our nations. We might differ in the ways on how do we achieve it, but at the end of the day, we believe that we should collaborate, we should focus on the future of our nation first, and then how can this collaboration bring impact to the students. Not only collaboration with ICMS, not only collaboration with Hafriz, KPUM, we also need to collaborate with other local student societies. And this collaboration will, if this collaboration brings a further impact, in positive impacts to the students, then I always welcome this sort of collaboration. Thank you.
Alright, the third question is from an anonymous source, because people have weird emails. But I suppose that's the reason that the question, that the source was anonymous. The question is this, and I quote, "I find the speaker series that UKC hosts quite boring a lot of the time. Please respond." Unquote.
Well, to be fair, to say that the speaker series are boring, I mean, to be fair, we have done our best in attracting those speakers so that they can share their views on what's happening back home to the Malaysian students. However, I do believe that the scope of the talk, the scope of the discussion can be expanded. We can always include more interesting issues, timeless issues. We can always talk about culture, we can always talk about education. We can always include those sort of qualities to be added to the scope of discussion. If we keep on sticking to political economy policies discussion, then of course year in year out we're going to have the same crowd of people, we're going to have the same type of speakers. However, I believe if we do expand the scope of discussion, if we were to include people from the past to talk about their experience and how those experiences will help the nation, the future, the youth in advancing the ideas, I believe that we should do that. We should always expand the scope of discussion to include timeless issues like culture. We can always invite interesting speaker like Wadina Safia, for example, to talk about how she has transformed herself from being a model from being a model to iconic person. I believe we can always do that. There is always room for us to expand that scope of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Syawal. Speaker series boring, you say? Well, basically my sentiments, I agree with Syawal actually, because yes, that is true. The current speaker series that we are hosting involve heavily in terms of politics, economics, and well, subjects that most students or the lay person would say boring. But yeah, there's no objections or no qualms to expanding the scope of discussion, having different sets of speakers, different sets of teams to be put into the plate. Well, I don't see any problems with regards to that at all. And well, we can't exactly control the content of what or how the speaker is going to speak now. So it's all up to the speaker, and I believe with another different scope, a wider range of scope or different team, we might have something different now. Thank you.
What sets you apart from your opponent? Why, if I were a voter, why should I vote for you instead of the other person? Thank you.
Now, well, to be fair, to be honest, there's not much differences between me and Syawal. We are, safe to say, like best mates in UKEC. I still wear his place for almost every single event. We work together. Well, we work closely together in teams and whatever it is in most of our events. And however, some of our experiences do differ in the sense that my job scope as a regional chair is slightly different from his as a junior executive in the careers department. Now, my experiences involved me traveling a lot, in the sense that I go to all these places outside of London to try and reach out to the students, especially the ones that are not represented in within Supreme Council as well. And I believe that from this and also the activities that we do in London as well, I can also relate some of the sentiments from outside London, especially from the fledgling Malaysian societies, the fledgling societies all around the UK. Maybe I have not travelled enough yet to be able to make that statement, but I have been making rounds in terms of going over to societies outside of London which are small and heavily underrepresented. And I believe that's one of the things that I think, one of my experiences and skills that differ from my colleague, esteemed colleague here, Syawal. In terms of UKEC management, in terms of our events, I believe that we fairly did almost everything similar, from whatever it is, from the logistics side of things, from the technical aspects to liaisons with speakers or sponsorship bodies as well. I believe we all, I think almost all of us in the executive committee has had experience in that. But to be able to travel a lot and meeting the students in person, on the ground, now that is something different. And I believe that's what differs me from Syawal.
Thank you, Amirul. Now, yeah, we are best mates, but you cannot have two chairmen. So what set me apart from the UKEC? One thing, if you were to summarize his arguments, basically it's about travelling, meeting people and all that. I believe that he has done his job in the scope of regional chairman. I believe he has fulfilled his duty as the regional chairman. But however, being the junior execs, I also did the same thing. When I went to Bristol, I met up with all the Malaysian societies in Bristol to promote the idea of career fair, to promote what UKEC has been doing, although I'm not the regional chairman. I did that on my own initiative. It's not about envisioning anymore. I've already done my part as a junior executive of UKEC. However, I think there are three things that need to be done if one to be elected as the next chairman of UKEC. Firstly, you need to understand the sentiment of the grounds that involve travelling, meeting people and all that. Secondly, you need to know how the system works, so that how you can fit in those ideas, so that thirdly, you can come up with a solution on how do we advance these ideas. I believe my exposure in UKEC so far has been involved roughly in the mechanism from the very bottom of UKEC. I know how to delegate the tasks among the colleagues. I also have been involved in meeting with sponsorship. I secured 25,000 ringgit from Khazanah for MSLS as a platinum sponsor. So this shows that my commitment in bringing in sponsors to further enhance the activities that we have doing so far is going to be beneficial to UKEC. Apart from that, for MSLS for example, how did I differ from him in terms of MSLS? Although we play the same parts in terms of logistics and whatnot, but I believe for MSLS alone, I have been involved since the early stage of preparation. For example, I work together with Izzat, Dina, and also Nisho and Thomas, also Azu, to come up with the team for MSLS, piecing together the mission puzzle. I've been involved in identifying key issues that needed to be brought up to discussion. I have designed the session. I've come up with a list of potential speakers that we should approach, and I approached them. I managed to bring in key speakers like Dr. Jomo from the Nation. I bring in key speakers like Tan Sri Noh, Dr. Johan American from Talent Corp, and also other speakers like Ibrahim. I have been liaising with Ibrahim for PAN. I believe that sort of experience in dealing with speakers and sponsors set me apart from Amirul. I understand the sentiments on the ground. I understand the message that we need to get across to the students, and I also know how to do it, and I will do it for the benefit of Malaysian students in the UK and Ireland. Thank you.
Well, to be fair, I brought in 25,000 from Securities Commission as well. Well, in terms of liaising with speakers and liaising with sponsorship bodies, well, there's no need to pick out names now, because I believe we both know how much work has been put within the internal structure as well, in terms of event management and planning, especially during Careers Fair, PAN and MSLS. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Just as a side note, that was the exact same question that was asked to me when I was elected. For anyone who was interested. So I'm very sentimental. Anyway, any more questions? I thought I saw Manjan putting up his hand. Yes, go ahead.
Alright, now bringing in the magic word decentralization, because it has been all the way there since I was a member of Supreme Council and voting you as the outgoing committee in. So, for both of you, what are your detailed plans in handling this problem? And kindly, I know you guys been like talking about the past experience and all, But I do hope for this question you can see your detailed plan for the future and not just relying on what Hakas and the committee have been doing. Thank you.
Who wants to go for this one first?
Thank you, Majin. Now, detailed plan. Well, I have to admit, what we are trying to do right now is we try our best to decentralize. Yes, that word has been played around way too many times for comfort as well. And something we did this year was the amazing race. Yes, I know you said you don't need to mention the past events, but we need to use these past experiences and events as precedents, as a template for us to commit further. Now, that was one of the biggest events we had, so to say, outside of London. And I believe that could take precedence, and it received an overwhelming support from the Northwest and also around people around that area basically, and support from the High Commissioner himself, Datuk Zakaria Sulong. He was very happy with the event. And I believe that we can even say proceed with something of a similar nature, perhaps in another region as well, to promote the region, to promote the universities there, the area there, to get students to congregate there as well. This is in addition to supporting Malaysian societies, Malaysian nights, and so have you. And with this, again, with the development of our independent projects, the growth of our Connectwork, the growth of our charisma, as you can see, it was a pilot project this year, and I believe that is the way forward as well. Connectwork has been recruiting members from universities from, well, everywhere in the UK basically, and you have participation more and more, and in terms of Connectwork, the potential is quite limitless actually. There's a lot of things you can cover, there's a lot of things you can broadcast and promote, and this is in itself a brand of student activism. Students getting together to do something as a collective good for the society, for themselves, or for the benefit of the nation. And also this thing for charisma in terms of volunteering. Now, the 32 volunteers, the 32 or 33 volunteers for charisma, all of them came from various different universities, not just local, not just Malaysian students, but also local students from the UK as well. And this sort of projects empower the students, give way for more participation, more decentralization, as you say, in terms of participation and in terms of hosting events. Well, this is the whole reason we need to empower the regional chair and try to extend the reach of the UKEC. And it's a step-by-step process. It doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen in just one term. I believe it was a good step, the right baby steps taken right now in terms of empowering the regional chair. Like we are given the option to appoint regional executives as well, like what happened this year. And well, it all takes time. Thank you.
Thank you, Majin, for that question. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that yes, you can have as many independent projects as possible. You can always encourage participation. What's the point of having that sort of projects when you do not have a strong influence and presence in that particular region? I believe we need to establish a better influence in each region in the UK and Ireland. So instead of mentioning what we have been doing so far, let's go straight to the point. What's my plan for the future of UKEC? I believe that UKEC needs to expand so that we can reach to many students as possible. One way to do it is to empower the regional chairman. So how do I plan to do this, ladies and gentlemen? I believe in the formation of regional committee. I believe we need to have sub-units for UKEC. For example, the main challenges for UKEC is for the whole committee to go up to Manchester to be there for Amazing Race. We cannot have that all the time if we really want to have this sort of event in each region. That's why we need a strong regional committee in each region, and this is how I'm going to tackle on this problem. Preferably, the committee will be consisted of representatives from each university. I believe in the idea that we should establish a more direct link of communication between the Supreme Council and also the UKEC. Thus, by having this regional committee, ladies and gentlemen, we will tackle on the problems when it comes to workforce, when it comes to the preparation, the planning of that event. Because for example, in Ireland, when it comes to the medical talk, Justin managed to bring up a committee on his own, and the medical talk went well. This is a proof that this idea of regional committee can be put forward so that we can engage more with the students. I believe with the support of the Supreme Council, we can always work hand in hand to enhance these ideas further. I believe that this will establish a more direct link of communication between UKEC and Supreme Council and also the Malaysian students. Yet when it comes to host events, we will tackle on the major problems that we have so far. The lack of workforce, we will do that. We will empower the regional chairman through the formation of regional committee, which will assist the Supreme Council, all the MSOCs in that particular region, to come up with the events. We will execute the events for the benefit of the students outside London as well, not only London. Thank you.
May I interject in this one?
Yeah.
Wait, thank you, Syawal. But I have a point with regards to the creation of regional committees. Well, basically, the current job of the regional chairman itself is to liaise with each and every member of the Supreme Council of their respective regions. That is your job already. Because, say for example, in one region there could be about 3-4 Malaysian societies or universities. Well, the onus is upon you to keep in close and direct contact. I don't believe that you need a committee another subcommittee to do this actually, because that shows how connected you are with your regional universities. Like for example, in East of England, the East of England is a nice example to pick because it's an underpopulated region. The University of East Anglia has about what, 50-60 Malaysians tops. Cambridge the same. Hertfordshire about 40-50 as well. And out of these 40-50 Malaysians of each respective universities, not all are very active in the Malaysian societies. Now for us to pick out Malaysians from these societies already, you're already picking out their strongmen, so to say, their able and competent workers, so to say. And I don't think we need to do that because they need all the help they can get. And it's already hard enough for certain Malaysian societies to survive, to stay afloat. So I don't believe in picking out strong men from each and respective universities, Malaysian societies. It may work in certain places like Manchester, because it's a very overpopulated region, but you have to look at the circumstances as well, because not all regions are very densely populated, such as London and Northwest. Because, well, as you can see, the Malaysian choices are very much concentrated in terms of London and in very certain universities only. And having said all that, the empowerment of regional chair, well, basically the regional chair still needs to maintain close and direct contact. There's no need for a committee.
Thanks for that.
Yes.
Alright, let's have a debate over here.
Yes.
Alright. Just because he thinks that his region doesn't need a regional committee, that doesn't necessarily mean other regions are also going to face that sort of problems. I don't think so. I believe that for UKEC to be able to represent the students, I believe we need to take up every single initiative that we could do in our capacity to further enhance these ideas. I believe why is this regional committee is inevitable, because we need to expand. And how do we expand? We cannot add on to our central committee, but we need to focus on our influence in regions outside London. Yes, you may not have a regional committee, like a fixed numbers of regional committees, like 5 for each committee. Yes, it can be based on the region. For example, if you have 3 units in that particular region, then a committee of 4 persons would be enough to assist the chairman, the regional chairman. I believe in the idea that we should establish a more direct link. The job of the regional chairman to have a direct contact with MSOCs. But I believe at the same time, if we can enhance this idea further, if we can form this regional committee, we can work closely with the Supreme Council, because they know they have their representative in UKEC and they know how to do it, they know how to channel their views. So that at the end of the day, this collaboration will benefit the students in that region. I believe that it is inevitable for UKEC to expand. I believe one way of doing it is to have this regional chairman. I believe we need to tackle all the problems with all solutions that we have in mind. We can always try, if it is sustainable, then we'll continue doing it. But I think the basis, the foundation of the idea has to be there. We need to implement it, and we will do it for the benefit of the Malaysian students in the UK and Ireland. Thank you.
Right, let's wrap it up with one last question. I saw Nisho at the back for some time.
This is on Project Amirul. But then this year, what happened was like we had very not so strong reception and support from the local students. Like the attendance was not that high. Plus, the cost of having the event is extremely high. We have to bring in all these speakers from Malaysia. A lot of them we have to buy plane tickets and stuff like that, and we have to have hotel rooms for them. So, what is your plan? Should we still have this program, or if you're still going to have it, what are we going to do to minimize the cost and cost benefit analysis? How do we work it in our favor?
Can I just stop that question? It's really important. As a chairman as well, you have to approach sponsorships. So at the moment, we're leaving you guys with lots of money for whoever's going to be the chairman next time. What is your plan to further improve the financial growth of UKEC? And this might sound a little personal, but Amirul, you are still a regional chairman for Norwich, right? But we talk about future planning, but I have been monitoring you when it comes to travel expenses, and you said that, yes, I will admit that there were some ad hoc events and stuff, and that you have to purchase the tickets last minute. But I sort of like put a rule to every single committee to further book your travel tickets in advance, but you've never done that at all. And what you did was to submit the claims monthly, and that was only allowed to chairman and the deputy chairman. So what sort of future planning is that? And if, let's say, I would give you the benefit of the doubt, if, let's say, you become the chairman, but will you try to probably do something to, when it comes to the financial matters? So that's my question.
You want to answer first because mine's a bit longer.
He has to take time to answer this question. So, yeah. Let's move on to PAN first. Right. How do I minimize the cost of PAN? I think firstly, PAN should be continued. I think in the spirit of the past committees, in the spirit of UKEC, I think those principles have to be championed. I think we still need to have PAN. But how do we make it better? How do we minimize the cost? Firstly, I admit that the cost incurred was too expensive. It doesn't justify the event that we had this year. So how do I plan to do this? I believe that we should, because we are based here in the UK and Ireland, we should take the initiative to approach the international speakers here in the UK and Ireland. We can always take professors like Danny Kwok, for example, from LSE to talk on economic issues that would have cut the cost. And I also believe that instead of making PAN, because it seems redundant because we already have MSRS, but I think PANs need to be localized in that sense. I believe in the collaboration with other student societies like FOSSIS, for example. Maybe in other societies, we need to collaborate so that we can come up with a better platform for the students to personally voice out their concerns, to come up with the solutions. I believe PAN should be done in a way such that the students will be empowered. Instead of listening to the talks, we can do something on our own initiative. And that's how I'm going to tackle the problem of PANs. Instead of talking about politics, economics and all that, we also can expand the scope of discussion, like what I have mentioned earlier, to include timeless issues like culture and education. We can always do that. Now, how do I plan for the financial growth of the UKEC? Firstly, I believe in the idea that if it comes to financial growth, then we can always approach for another platinum sponsor. I believe that idea is feasible. For example, we can always, because we already have companies from accounting and finance, we already have companies like Shell, RHB, banking and all that. Why don't we try with companies like Dell, for example, a technology firm? I think we can do that in terms of having more sponsorship coming in. I have experience in securing sponsorship for UKEC. I believe I can advance the idea further. On the plans to cut the expenditure, I believe that RP has been doing a good job so far. I believe there's always room for improvement. Like she said, the committee has to be responsible for what they claim for. I believe that we need to set the ground rules for the committee to claim beforehand, like a week in advance, for example. I believe we need to do that. And how am I going to do that? Is I will make sure that my committee in the next term will work efficiently to cut the cost. I believe we need to control the spending. I believe we cannot. We have to, when it comes to financial growth, I believe that the most crucial part is when it comes to budgeting. I believe we need to allocate the budget specifically to each project. How do we measure these projects? How are these projects going to be beneficial to the societies? What numbers are we talking about? I believe that that sort of budgeting should be implemented for the future projects. So that at the end of the day, we have to make sure that those responsible for the projects will not go beyond the cost, and also we can control the financial spending of UKEC in that sense, so that if people are becoming more reasonable, more responsible, there's always ways for us to cut the cost that has been incurred by UKEC so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Syawal. Thank you, Nisho, for the question regarding PAN, and thank you, Abhi, as well. Well, first of all, with regards to PAN, you said that whether it's feasible to run such a project again with the amount of money we spend and the actual participation. Now, with all due respect to the executive committee, I believe that we haven't done enough. I mean, it was on our part actually. We haven't done enough in terms of promoting at an early stage, because to be fair, yes, I know PAN came about 2 weeks after the careers fair, and there was not because I believe more weight and publicity was given to the careers fair instead of Project Amanat Negara. And this year we did it at a different venue at the Lim Kok Wing University. Now, it is a nice venue and all. The place is excellent with the AV equipment and everything, but the hall might be a bit bigger than usual, and we did expect about 100 people, and still yet 100 people came. But in terms of participation, it's about, well, promoting. We haven't promoted enough, to be honest. It's all on our part. We haven't promoted enough at an early time. Yes, but you have in terms of feasibility of running the project again, PAN is one of the flagship projects of UKEC. It's in our history. It's one of our pillars of the UKEC. And quoting the previous chairman, Amirul, what makes a good year? The careers fair jalan, PAN jalan, MSLS jalan, and now that's a good year. And in terms of the financial cost of this year's PAN, well, I believe there's been some miscommunications involved in regards to reimbursing and compensating for the speakers from Malaysia, and I believe that can be worked on. It's just a matter of communication within the internal structure of the UKEC. And yes, agreeing with Syawal, we have a lot of competent Malaysian as well as local British speakers in abundance over here in the UK. There's not a big problem at all to approach them to give a session in the Project Amanat Negara, because this affects Malaysians, and this is our brand of student activism, and PAN must continue. And in terms of financial growth, like my colleague said, I believe we can still pursue with sponsorship as well. We can get another platinum sponsor from a firm from a different field. And in terms of management, well, Prudence, yes, correct. Abe, you've been doing a superb job in actually managing the finances. And with regards to your question, yes, I did send in my claims monthly. Okay, fine. But in all fairness, claims were deducted from, there were some penalties and deductions made from it. And if I was to count back, doing the maths, the amount of deductions that you made is pretty much the same as the advance ticket. And also, I mean, I'm not attacking you as well personally, but I did receive my claims quite late towards the end of the year for everything in one bulk purchase. Maybe that's how it looked like one massive number instead of, say, a monthly thing. Do you get me?
Yeah, I do get you, but it's still good.
Yeah. So yes, it was my bad in that sense, and I have no excuse or whatever for that.
On that note, again, thank you everyone for coming. I'd like to wish both of you good luck for your campaign over the next week, and I think I speak on behalf of everyone. We've heard the rhetoric, we've heard the sentiments and your motivations, and we look forward to the concrete plans in your manifesto speech next week. So again, all the best, thank you everyone, and jumpa makan. Thank you.